If you are enjoying this podcast and other podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon Shop. Awesome t-shirts and mugs from your favorite shows so you can tout your podcast pride all while supporting your favorite podcast network. And make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. Shop now at dragonwagonradio.com/shop and get your dragon swag on.
Okay. All right. You ready? Here we go.
Mark says I can take out the buzz later if there is any.
We're not going to listen to find out.
No.
Welcome to another episode of The Hell With This. This is Mark Heiliger, your co-host. And Chad is here, and I wanted to say he showed up at my front door with what appeared to be a plastic can of piss.
I mean, it looks like apple juice.
I thought he peed in the car and needed a place to pour this thing. And no, it's even worse.
No, it's an IPA. I went to Mendocino Farms.
They gave him beer to go at a restaurant.
I was like,
that's
hey.
not okay.
She's like, do you want anything to drink, like a beer or water? And I was like, well, I mean, I'd love a beer, but I can't get it to go, right? And she was like,
I don't see why not.
She said, I don't see why not. I gave it to someone else earlier.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'd like a beer to go.
It's so fucked up.
So
that's not okay. That is an open container. You were driving with an open container, and if a cop stopped you for something else, they could have arrested you just for that.
What? Someone else was talking about open carry.
Open carry?
Open carry
laws.
Open
carry of alcohol.
Open carry beer. And they were saying that I don't know. I don't remember what country it is. It's not America.
Germany.
Well, it might be a southern state.
Okay. It's like a different country.
If you're walking around with a cup of beer, and as long as there's a lid over the top of it, and if there's a straw in it, as long as you have a piece of tape over the straw, it's considered closed.
Wow. I think it would, in my book, it would be considered open if anything will fall out if you turn it upside down, which it would in this case.
I'm always terrified to like have alcohol, like let's say like a sealed wine bottle, like in the back seat, because it's like
you gotta have.
I know it's like gonna be the one time I like.
You mean like a resealed
accidentally?
wine bottle?
No, just like
a
actually
new.
Never opened.
Okay.
Any alcohol that's been never opened.
Okay.
Like in the front of the car.
Yeah.
I've always got this inkling that someday it'll be the one day that I rear end a cop and the bottle just shatters.
Or else a motorcycle cop comes up next to you and can see down into your passenger seat. Oh, I see. We got a 12-pack of Natty Light, huh?
Well, it would just explode and it'd be all I'd be dripping so that they walk up and they're just like,
Yeah. You're covered. You're just drenched in liquor.
Yeah, just dripping head to toe. Oh my God.
I actually just told the story at work. It came up for some reason. I used to work as a bartender at a Tex-Mex restaurant in Illinois. It's out of business now. It's not my fault. I didn't work there when they closed down. But a similar thing. I was like working the phones and somebody came in to pick up their order while I was also bartending. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, could I get like a frozen margarita to go? And I reached for a to-go cup before I went, you can't get me like that. That's illegal.
What are your actual thoughts on it?
On having
law aside, what are your thoughts on having a beer in the car?
I don't think it's a good idea.
That's closed.
Oh, that's closed?
Yeah. Well, I mean closed like mine's closed. Like I've got a plastic lid on top of my plastic cup.
I think it would. It's basically just having it in the car. It's saying to you, drink me while you drive. Like that's the definition of drinking.
If you're an
driving.
alcoholic, maybe.
Well,
you don't have alcoholic.
You don't have cocktails that actually call out to you.
I don't have an urge to go. I'm at the stoplight for an awfully long time. I better crack it open and drink myself a beer.
I think so many people would and do feel that way. They're well, I'm just driving. I'm just going to take a swig. I'll like finish it before I even get home. No one's will be the wiser.
So you would
I don't
err on
think-
the side of caution, and
I would err on the side of
assuming
caution.
that people do not know how to police themselves.
Yes, I don't think many people are going to get fucking hammered off of like a single drink. But who's going to draw the line at one? If you've got like the 6-pack in the seat next to you, hey, you finished the first one, still got 20 minutes on the road, maybe I'll have that second one. And that's when people will get into that territory where they're making poor decisions behind the wheel. In fact, drinking the first one is already a poor decision.
Well, I've definitely been in. Have you ever been in an Uber?
No.
Well, let me
I've been in a Lyft.
describe this. So I was with a group of some of Orla's friends who we'll leave unnamed.
Good idea.
But anyway, we got in a party bus or a party Uber.
Okay.
Just a regular Uber.
Was like, okay.
Guy
regular
showed
Uber.
up, picked up basically me and a bunch of crazy women.
Was it an SUV, like the Uber X?
I think so, yeah.
Like the luxury
I think so, yeah.
level? Yeah.
Because we had like 5 people in the car, but one of the girls brought like a wine bottle and like cracked it open like immediately. It was like handing glasses around. And
was the driver like, excuse me?
They didn't even ask the driver. The driver was just like, oh, well, I guess this is happening now, and didn't say, he was kind of sheepish, so he didn't say anything.
I would really
But
wonder about the legality.
I don't remember what the law is on that. I
Like
think in some states, it varies by state. Some states will let the passengers drink.
Yeah, well, I think in certain cases, like if it was a limo driver, obviously they're separated from the back. They
Sure.
had the little window thing.
Right.
A cab, even they have the plastic divider. But when you come down to the level of like an Uber or a Lyft driver, it's just a regular person driving a car. They don't have a special license. They don't have a medallion. There's no like a separate legal definition for them. They're just, always thought legally, the problem with them, Lyft and Uber drivers, is that they are just citizens driving other citizens around. So there's this real gray area. And I don't know what the rule would be in that case. I would bet that if there was any kind of a citation issued by the driver gets pulled over for blowing a red light or something like that. If there was an open bottle of wine in the back, you might have to get a new lift. That guy might be arrested at that point. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've been fighting with this my whole life in terms of deciding on whether or not people should be policed to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that you're telling them what they can and cannot bring into their
Oh,
cars.
I see. You don't want to live in a nanny state.
That's exactly right. No. But I also
I would love a nanny state. Who doesn't want a free
we could
nanny?
go on all kinds of tangents about different political things and what,
Apropos of nothing. Has nothing to do with the movie
We're going to
anyway.
save our audience some politics because there's too many already. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll just leave it at that.
Way to start a conversation.
No,
then.
well, I guess my when it comes to alcohol, people are going to drink and they're going to drive. And, if they're going to get pulled over, they're going to get pulled over regardless of whether or not they have something. I understand your argument, though. If they've had one, they get in the car and they've got the other one and they're like, well, fuck it. But I have a feeling that
I feel fine now. One more isn't going to kill me. Well, it might.
But I guess in that case, they're going to drink regardless of whether or not there's a law.
So you're saying like...
I'm saying that the law is not actually doing anything because the people who are going to drink are going to drink and the people who aren't.
I believe that there are people who will actually consider the ramifications first. In another situation where there were no rules, if they were in fucking Mexico, they don't have laws, right? If they were in another country, they're in the Bahamas, and they were just like, fuck it, I'm here to party,
Right.
woo! In America, in their home city or whatever, they might actually go like, you know what, I better save that till I get home.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go to prison or run some kid over in the street. Or even a cat. I believe
sure that's what they say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drink this alcohol because I'd hate to run over a cat on the way home.
Right. Well, you're implying that people love running over cats now. And I don't appreciate that.
People actually really hate cats. I don't know if you know this, Mark. I know you and I are cat people.
Oh, here's the problem. I live on the
People hate
internet.
cats.
I live on the internet, and the entire internet loves cats. So I'm into my bubble where everyone loves cats.
People are weird.
Except for the fact that they poop in boxes that you have to clean out. And if they pee on something and you don't catch it in time, it'll stink like
Unless
that
you
pee
get
forever.
one of those like Death Stars that they can walk into and they poop.
And
then
it'll
they
scoop
leave
it away.
and it like rotates and scoops away the poop.
They have automatic litter boxes, and some cats are really freaked out by those things because it'll start. It can get like accidentally triggered, and it'll start sweeping away while the cat's still peeing in there, and they'll be like, "Whoa, fuck! I'm never peeing in there again.
Yeah.
I'll pee outside instead." Because that thing attacked me just now. I'm not going back in there. And then you've got a bunch
not
of
operate
stinky
like
floors.
an elevator or something. It would be like eye origins and just
It'll cut the cat
in half.
Speaking of eye origins, we should go over a new policy.
Oh yeah. So basically,
This is news to me, by the way.
When I sat down to edit together our eye origins, it occurred to me because we always start off a podcast just shooting the shit like we do.
Yeah, like now.
And then we play a trailer or a clip or something, and then we come back, we talk about the movie, and presumably, I would say in a perfect world, if someone hasn't seen the movie, maybe they listen to the first half, they listen to the trailer, and then they decide, okay, I'm either going to watch this or I'm not.
Yeah.
And then they come back and listen to the second half of the podcast. That'd be the perfect world. But
then, what
we
do you
also
think? Half or over half of the second half of the podcast was just plot?
Yeah, that's the problem. Eye Origins, we came back and we just talked about the plot, which we've done many times.
I think
but
you
usually
have
we
to
keep
a
it
little
like
bit.
concise and but I guess if we're speaking to people that have already seen the
Who
movies,
just watched it? Okay. Yeah, well.
it would only count if we're talking to people that haven't seen the movie, and in those cases, those people
That's their
should
fault.
just burn in hell for listening to the spoilers
It's
of a
their
movie.
fault for wading into spoiler territory
Yeah.
without having seen
Right.
the movie. That's true. It's a good point. We're putting a lot of the onus on the audience then to actually go and find the movie and watch it.
So anyway, what first thing I said to you when I sat down tonight was, we should not talk about the plot. Really, I mean, we can obviously reference it,
we have
but we're not gonna straight up describe it anymore
ad infinitum.
So if you want to watch a movie after we talk about whatever,
Hopefully we
play
make
the
it sound
trailer,
interesting
yeah.
enough. Or else it's a bad one and we warn you away.
Go
and
watch
you
the
haven't
fucking
wasted your
movie.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good policy.
Yeah.
Let's shake on it.
we are shaking.
That's the sound of handshaking.
Great radio. So we missed a week too.
We missed a week.
We got busy again.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you were busy in particular. I was ready to record.
did
all
you
kinds.
see the car out in the driveway?
I did. I saw one of them has a huge dent in the front of it now.
It's not just a dent. I mean,
like
that's like a smash.
totaled.
Yeah, it's totaled. It's an old car, and not much would have taken to actually total the car, but it doesn't run.
So what happened?
It's all fucked up. Ashley was driving. She was going through an intersection straight.
Yeah.
And somebody coming the other way in the left turn lane turned left without, giving her right of way directly into her. Like there was no place for there's no place for Ashley to go. It was unavoidable.
Yeah.
Like she just got hit by somebody for no reason.
Right.
And, I won't get into all the details. It's being handled by insurance and lawyers and everything now. But she got a brand new car.
Right. I saw.
I mean, hopefully
But I
someone
know
else will
you.
pay
I
for
saw
it
that
one
you were
day.
talking about getting a new car this week.
Yeah. We spent the whole day last Sunday just kind of going to various dealerships, test driving things. And she had been doing that already because she knew her car was old and one day it would just die.
Kind of like
She didn't
yours.
think it would get murdered.
Yours is kind of. Well, I didn't think my Hyundai would get murdered
Right.
while I was in it.
Things happen. Things just kind of happen.
While I was parked in the car, choosing what songs to listen to. Yeah. I don't know. Our audience doesn't know that story, but I was parked on a hill facing downward, and I heard that whirring sound of a car going in reverse from behind me, and I heard a girl scream, and I turned around, and a van was rolling down the hill with its driver door open. Like she had just
parked it and forgot to
put it in the park,
brake on.
Put it in park, but didn't put the brake on.
And on a steep
got
enough
out.
hill, the parking gear is not enough to
It
hold
just
it.
popped right out, and it just rolled straight down. And I looked back, and I thought for a second, I was like, I could potentially turn on the car fast enough and peel out of this spot. But I was tightly parallel
I mean,
parked.
you're not Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible.
But
It's
you
like
could be. But I just sat there.
that would have been
I had
an
splits,
awesome save, though, wouldn't it?
But then if I had
it would
I
have
done
hit somebody
that,
else.
I was gonna say had I done that, it might have gone up onto the curb and hit someone because it was right at the entrance of Runyon Canyon, and there was tons of people walking by my car.
Right.
Because
Okay.
the van that hit me was for like one of those food companies that pulls over and hands people free samples and stuff like that.
Okay. Never seen a van like that.
Anyway, the van rolled down, smashed into my bumper, and like folded my wheels on the right side of my car.
That was
like,
a Mazda 3?
It was a Hyundai Accent.
Oh.
But it took the wheels that were up against the curb and folded them underneath the car. That's how hard it hit me.
Oh, man.
Because I thought I got out of the car, and even though there was a van like literally bounced up on top of my trunk.
Wow.
I was like, well, it seems like the car could actually drive until I turned around and looked and saw my wheels underneath.
Are gone, basically.
Yeah, man. But I will say this. I've never heard more open sexism than after that happened.
Were people going like, of course it was a woman driver?
Yes.
Oh,
because
fuck.
I got out of my car and there were people yelling down like, this is why women shouldn't drive. And I was like, whoa.
Technically, she wasn't driving at the time.
It wasn't. That's very true.
It's why we don't let women park.
Oh, jeez. No, but that was just like, it was pretty eye-opening because it was like that you really get everyone's full opinion when like there's the concern of safety and everything's involved.
Was it just a white woman? Let's not get into that.
I was gonna say, what does that mean?
If it was any particular ethnicity, then you'd get people going like, "Ah, oh, goddamn, whatever."
Yeah, I'm sure.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah,
people will find a reason to pick on that.
But it totaled my car. Basically, I didn't get any real value out of it. Anyway, like
you got a check for like $1,000.
Yeah, the car was like drivable pretty much only by me because one of the gears didn't work anymore, but I knew how to use it anyway.
You just skipped one and went straight to
they
two?
Totaled it. I think they gave me like $1,500 for it.
Okay.
You know,
it's more than my car's worth for sure.
But it was a good car. It was like 160,000 miles. It was still going strong.
I've got like,
and they give you that money and you're like, wow, I can't buy anything with this, or I can buy a really shitty car that someone else has driven into the ground.
What they give you when a car is old and quote unquote worthless is like, it's the same you'd get for scrap,
right?
Because that's what they're getting, I'm sure.
So, yeah, and then they totaled it. I sold it to the scrapyard basically. 5 years later, this was a lesson learned. 5 years later, I got a ticket in the mail from Visalia, California.
They resold your car. They fixed it, resold it, and somebody else got a fucking
ticket.
ticket.
I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was spam at first. And yeah, they fixed my car. They resold it. They left the license plate on there.
Oh my god!
And the person never re-registered it. So it was expired registration for like 5 years.
Yeah. I mean,
Visalia was trying to like sue me, and I was like, but no, because I had gone on and I had marked it as sold to the stupid tow yard, which are basically just scum and villainy. Like anybody at a tow yard, and they're all scum. Like every last one. I don't care. If you work at a tow yard, you are scum. They sold it, and somebody was driving it around. And
my god, did you explain and they dropped it, or was it a whole legal thing?
It took me 6 months. I had creditors calling me and everything for it, and like the court was like, "You've missed your dates," and I'm like, "Well, technically, I'm fighting you right now."
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I was never.
I'm providing you proof, but you aren't responding to it. And finally, eventually, they did, and they dropped the whole case.
Good, but yeah, man.
But I was just like,
why does it take so long?
But
simple problem.
Well, it taught me a very important lesson, which was never ever leave your license plates on your car.
No, of course not.
If they total it.
My first question to you is like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
You don't have to scrap those too. You're supposed to keep those.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the car wreck and why I was busy last week.
You got a new car now.
Yeah, actually has a new car.
Yeah. So
And
when are you going to get a new car? Your car is ready to fall apart.
It is not ready to fall
Do
apart.
you have 200,000 miles on that thing?
No, I have like 127,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I
it
drive
sounds like
7,000
garbage
miles
every
a
time
year.
you drive. It sounds like the engine's going to fall out of the car.
What? What are you talking about?
It sounds like, I don't know.
It sounds fine for an old car.
Sure, Mark. Sure.
All right,
Wait,
maybe it's a little noisier than before. Look, I've been researching cars for 2 years because I thought like it was one more big repair coming down the road. I don't feel like paying more than the car is worth to keep it alive. But I kind of see it as a value thing. Literally any repair I do to my current 16-year-old car is going to be cheaper than buying a brand new car.
Right.
I could replace the whole engine on my car
Isn't
for
that insane?
less than buying a new car.
Yeah.
But I really want a new electric car.
Yeah.
The one I'm looking at now is a Hyundai Kona,
Uh-huh.
but that's not coming out until early next year.
I'd ask you what your budget is, but I'm guessing you don't want to tell us on the air.
I mean, I don't have it all saved up. I wouldn't be able to do cash or something. And
Would you buy used or new?
I would buy used, but there's not a lot of EVs that are out there used. They get snatched up so quick.
Right. And you don't know how people, I don't know. Do you charge an EV? I would assume.
Yeah. You don't leave it plugged in.
I don't know if it was one of those weird hybrids that charges itself.
It's not a street car that connects to the wires overhead.
All right.
That would be amazing, though. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, you don't know if there's somebody out there like doing charging it properly, or they're just fast charging it.
I think, ideally I would get a new EV because they come with a warranty for like the lifetime of the battery. As long as you have this car, if the battery ever holds less than, say, 75% of its full advertised charge, they'll just replace the battery. Buying used, I'm sure, does not come with a warranty like that.
Right. My friend, I don't think. Do you know Terry?
No.
He bought a used Tesla.
S or 3 or X?
Whatever the first one was. The
S,
I think
yeah.
Was an S?
Well, a Roadster was the very first one, but then S was like their luxury car after that.
I think an S. It's the longer one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit beefier.
Yeah.
But I think he got it for somewhere around 20 mid-20s or something. I don't know.
Fuck. Was it like the lowest range? They have like different range variations of that car.
Maybe.
That could be,
I
but
mean, it
still,
was
that's
used,
a very good. Somebody probably
he
drove
told
that
me,
thing
I was
to
like,
hell and
wow.
back.
I mean, it's in great shape. That's
Okay.
how it looks great.
I guess they just needed
He
to
keeps
get rid
it in
of a
great
Tesla.
shape. I mean,
I just rode in a Tesla for the first time this past week. Somebody at work has one, and we were just going down like surface streets, not highway speeds. Every time he touched the gas pedal, I felt like I was on a roller coaster. I was just like, "Woo!"
Really?
It has such acceleration. There's so much torque on that thing. It's like being slingshotted.
I've only driven around the ArcLight parking lot with Terry, so that's the.
You don't want to go over those bumps.
No.
Yeah.
Probably not. Bad. It'd be bad. So what are we watching this week, Terry? Terry?
My name's not Terry. Who the hell are you talking to?
Did I tell you I was coughing so hard the other day that I think I might have given myself an aneurysm?
The memory's going.
Because
you're getting names and faces
I have
wrong.
a very sharp pain in a very specific part of what feels like my brain.
Okay.
So if I die in the middle of this podcast,
did you see this news story in the past couple days? Poor man died, 36-year-old, just like me. He was coughing so hard that he coughed up a blood clot, and the blood clot was in the perfectly molded shape of his lung airways. Like, it was a blood clot that was clogging up his lungs, and he coughed it out in the shape of like the veins leading out of his lungs.
So kind of like if you go to Body Worlds and you see the vein.
Like they showed a picture of it on the news. It's just like this gelatinous outline of his arteries and stuff.
What?
It's so fucked up.
And it killed him?
He went to the hospital. He survived that part, but then he died later of like heart failure.
I was gonna say, if you have some kind of cough that bad, and you've got a clot that bad,
but he didn't die of a lung problem. He died of a heart problem. I'm sure it's all related.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine, from my best friend in like 7th grade, has been having all sorts of heart problems lately because he's always known he had a bad valve.
Oh.
And
let's head down to Menards, get a new valve.
Right. go to the pig farm and just dig one out.
Fuck.
But he went and had his valve replaced finally, which he always knew was going to have to happen. And over the course of a year, I guess it had gotten kind of infected. Or I think it took fine, but they just had endocarditis, which you can get from like just bacteria being in your bloodstream. Usually people get it from like bad teeth.
Oh, okay.
So like if you have a broken tooth, you can get bacteria in your bloodstream. And I found, just because
because then it's like an exposed thing. Yeah.
I've had my grandfather and my uncle had it also, where bacteria just kind of builds up around like a certain part, like the weakest part of the valve that's like folded in your heart, and just chews at it.
Because that's where it can live. It can survive there.
Yeah. So it just chews away at the valve until it's like deteriorated. And that's basically what happened to my friend. But the heart was so weak from the infection that he was starting to have mini strokes, like all over. And so they checked him out, and they didn't realize at the time he had all these mini strokes, but they're like, something's going wrong. But the doctors were like, oh, hey, you're probably fine. Here's some antibiotics, send him on his way.
Yeah.
And then he had he had to have like an emergency, like at one night, like his foot was like swelling up, and he had a blood clot in his foot.
Jesus. Then he coughed it out, and it was in the perfect shape of his foot.
Perfect shape of his foot. But anyway, they went and they removed it. And then like 2 weeks later, he was having more issues. So they brought him in, and they found like 3 more clots like in his heart. And it's because the heart's just not pumping strong enough to like flush everything.
So basically. Yeah, like the blood is just sitting still in certain spots.
That kind of sounds like what happened to the guy you're talking about. Like if he had 1 clot, it was because the heart wasn't doing its duty.
Right.
But yeah, he had, and then so they had to go in and like fix the valve, and he like flatlined several times. Heart just wouldn't beat on its own because it was like it had gone through so much abuse from like everything that they had to like crack his chest open and leave him like his heart like in the open air overnight to be able to like they can massage it and like
work.
But he's like awake.
The kinks,
he's awake this whole time.
No shit.
Yes, and his like family and little girls are sitting there and like checking his heart out and
You remember that scene in the RoboCop remake?
The remake? Oh,
did you see the remake? Oh, there's only one good scene in that whole thing where I think it's Sam Jackson. No, it's Michael Keaton. I don't know. Somebody fucking they like lock him into his little thing, and slowly they move away all of his robotic parts until it's just his head and a set of lungs and like half an arm or something. And that was like brutal to watch. That's the only good part of that remake. But it reminds me of
that sounds like the second one, RoboCop 2, like when there's just the brain floating in
with
the
the
base,
eyeballs floating.
The eyeballs that ends up being the bad guy.
Yeah.
Long story short,
too late.
Might as well finish the story on my friend. They fixed him up. He was finally fine. Went back. Was playing with his little girls. This is like 3 weeks after, and just fell on the floor, collapsed, and like heart stopped. And keep in mind, they live in like way south of Denver, so they're like way away from hospitals.
Yeah.
So they called it in, and they started immediately going. Like it was his wife.
I hope his
who
wife
I also
CPR.
went to school with, and the 2 parents did CPR for 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's not like the movies where you just got to restart it. You got to keep doing it.
45 minutes is how long it took the helicopter to get there. And they got there. They got a pulse back. And they flew him to Denver, which was like, probably like a 45-minute helicopter flight. And, got his heart kind of going again. And then like the next day they were like, well, we're going to try to wake him up. It doesn't appear that there's much damage to the brain, if any, which was pretty miraculous considering he was dead for 45 minutes, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he woke up and the first thing he asked was like, "Where's my wedding ring?" And like so he had awareness,
the important stuff.
Yeah, right. And he it's fine. Like I guess He's got some issues and kidney damage, and he's got to deal with, from all the damage of your heart stopping for 45 minutes. But the doctor was like, you should be dead. Like, your family did the best CPR job I've ever seen in my life. Like,
amazing.
So he's pretty lucky. But
yeah, I mean,
hopefully it's been like, it's been like 2 or 3 weeks now since that happened. So he's fine so far. So hopefully.
You hear stories of people like, they have cancer and they know it's terminal. They only have 6 months to live or whatever it is. And they have to start living their life finally before they don't have it anymore. This is a person who could literally drop dead any second now.
Well, they had to install the thing that shocks your heart, because his heart beats out of rhythm to the point that eventually it gets to the point that it's can't.
Going like, it'll get...
It's like fighting itself, and that's when it stops.
Is it like one of those things that Dick Cheney has?
Probably. Because
it's like an internal pacemaker.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it'll zap it back, like... So they always say that, there's kind of a fear that goes into that, because you don't know at what point it's just going to zap you.
Because it can tell that it needs to.
Obviously uncomfortable. it's you could just be walking around.
There you are, shaving your neck.
Yeah, so he can't be a dentist anymore, because he can't be drilling and
the fascinating thing about, if it is the kind that Dick Cheney has, he has no pulse. The thing Dick Cheney has is like a pump that just keeps it going. There's no bump. It's just like a shh.
Isn't that what Picard has?
I don't know.
Picard gets stabbed in the heart in that one episode.
Oh, I don't remember what they did to fix that, though.
They gave him a robotic heart.
No.
See?
Fantastic.
Just, I always think, like, well, if that's all it's doing, then why the hell don't we just do that more often?
Why don't we do that? Why don't we just give that to everybody now?
Right.
Before problems come up.
Exactly. If you got heart problems, it's mechanical heart. I don't see what the problem is.
Why can't we just replace all of our bones with titanium?
As long as it runs fine. Yeah. Anyway, wow. It's a lot better off than. Before we move off to the subject, I do have to say that one of my really good friends from my comic shop days, who used to destroy me at Magic, passed away in his sleep at the age of 43.
That's very young.
Yeah. Embolism. Yep. Killed him.
The silent killer.
Yep.
No warning, so it'll just come up.
In case you're feeling good about yourself today, you could be dead tomorrow.
You could be dead tomorrow, so just do what you want. Just rape and pillage and murder.
Well, maybe not. You may die sooner.
Too far?
Because of that.
Don't rape anybody, please.
Please don't.
Use your better judgment.
If you do, it's Mark's fault. Blame Mark.
Anyhow.
I am not legally viable.
The movie we're watching today is American Movie.
Hooray!
And most of the movies we watched so far are American movies, but that's the title of this one.
This is unlike last week. Like, neither one of us had seen I Origins. We've both seen this.
This is a favorite of mine.
Don't remember it. Really? It's a documentary?
It's a documentary.
Is it a real documentary? Because I always remembered
it was kind of
a mock. I remembered it was like
it's hilarious.
It was almost unbelievable.
It's a real documentary. These are all real people doing real things, but it is so funny.
When did this come out?
This came out in 1999, I believe.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And
I do remember.
This is when I was
like a magical piece of movie making.
I saw it senior year of high school. It was when I was first getting into film. This is about a filmmaker in the Midwest named Mark. So I felt like I had some sort of kinship with this guy, except this guy is way more confident and I believe way less skilled than me. But the reason I wanted to do a documentary is because I just finished watching season 2 of Making a Murderer on Netflix and was in such a horrible, no good, very bad mood at the end of that I wanted to do a documentary that's a little more fun.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that in particular, because isn't that also like a Midwest?
Yeah, that's a Wisconsin story. This one is in...
Seem similar to this?
This one is Michigan or Wisconsin. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm excited to see it again because, well, for so many reasons. Because I think when I first saw it, I was kind of like forced into watching it. And you know how you just kind of like you can't enjoy something as much when someone's forcing you. You know.
Oh, you mean the
whole point of
concepts
this
of the podcast? Yeah.
I've come around, but I mean, it's a documentary about a filmmaker like doing everything to get their movie made.
Yeah, like pretty much he works and lives and breathes just to make
this movie.
his feature film.
It's fascinating for that respect, you know. And it's like as goofy as I remember the whole thing being, like them in particular.
Yeah.
And I don't remember specifically. We can talk about it after the fact, so we don't spoil anything. But I just remember it was such a funny watch.
It's very entertaining. Everybody in this movie is a character of some type,
and it's kind of disappeared. So I'm glad that glad that you brought it, Mark.
In my generation of filmmakers, I think you're included in there. This was sort of the holy Bible sort of Bible. Of that like what kind of energy it takes to make movies. Like everybody should be like Mark Borchardt in this movie. Just make better movies than Mark Borchardt does in this movie.
So they shouldn't be like that other documentary, Overnight.
No. Don't be like Overnight.
We actually, that's a good one we should watch sometime.
We should watch that.
We'll so do it next. We won't go into that, but if you can find a copy of Overnight, not The Overnight, it's a documentary.
Yeah, Overnight.
It's hard to find now. Probably because the filmmakers have like burned every copy. I did want to apologize to my friend Trevor, who I've been trying to get him in as a guest on this show many times. I think he was going to bring some weird cheerleader massacre movie or something for us to watch one time. But American Movie was one of the other things that he really wanted to talk to. So I apologize to Trevor.
Well, he can write some fan mail. He'll get on the gram. He'll get on the tweets.
Yeah, he'll get on the gram.
Yeah,
your favorite, the gram.
Yeah, I don't
You
gram.
only do the Twitter. You just make fun of me for running our Instagram.
Yeah, I hardly tweet as it is. Let's start the movie. Let's get on with this.
Okay.
That was wicked, man.
His whole life is making this one film.
You have 2 hours tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and be an extra in a film.
You get your name on the credits, man, as a producer.
And of course, there'll be a whole crowd of people here, so we got to make like a line where people can't go. Have a hell of a lot of assistant directors saying, hey, could you step back like 5 feet? I think my mom's gonna have to end up going out in the woods.
I have my shopping to do.
Okay, you gotta spread apart that way. All of the extras have just fell through, except for Mike Schank right there.
We used to do a lot of partying together, but I don't party anymore.
Hey, Mike, make sure everyone has brown gloves.
Does everyone have brown gloves?
No, dude. I'm broke, man. I gotta get gas tomorrow. And dude's talking about making a feature film.
The name of the film is Coven.
Coven.
Coven, that's the proper pronunciation.
No, coven sounds like oven, man, and that's just, it doesn't work.
She wants to be in your film, Bill.
Oh my gosh.
You get your $3 grand back. It's the first line of the film, man. It's gotta be on the money.
It's all right.
Okay, I believe we can do this.
Shot 37 here where my head goes through the cover. Every time we got together, there was something that seemed to go wrong.
Oh, dude. I'm sorry you tried to put your head in this.
Take 30. Cut. You gotta watch your teeth, too, because they clack a little bit when they loosen up in the mouth.
Oh, now I see there's a flame there.
Oh, no. What are you talking about, Ma? Check it out when you look at the scarecrows. You get it? Within weeks, the film will be cut, finished for multiple sales. What do you think about that?
Multiple sales to who?
We get to see Americans and American dreams, and you won't walk away depressed after seeing this. This whole thing is turning into a theatrical mockery. Do you understand that, Mike?
No.
Well, you will. Would you buy this movie for $14.95?
Hell yeah, man.
If I could find 3,000 people like you across this country, man, I'm in business.
This makes me feel good, like actually seeing that he's still making movies, this guy, Mark Borchardt.
Yeah, sort of. This is his acting credits that we're looking at.
Oh, wow.
Directing, only a few. And one is only announced, so I'm sure that means it's not happening.
So,
documentary shorts, a couple of narrative shorts.
And most notably, you don't see Northwestern on there, which is begins to be the subject of this documentary.
Yeah, the full title on the beginning of the movie is American Movie, The Making of Northwestern. But then it's like, oh shit, we can't make Northwestern now. Let's make Coven instead, or rather Coven.
Yeah. I would assume that Northwestern would be listed if they actually did finish it. You know,
right? It's not in his writing credits
IMDb
either.
is only what people submit to it, but
yeah,
obviously he's got a whole list.
I'm actually surprised that he doesn't have it on there all the time as announced, right? Just to keep the dream alive.
He's in Cabin Fever 2.
Yeah.
Is he in anything that I've seen before?
I think these are all pretty low budge, kind of the Jeffrey Dahmer files. He plays Man with Glasses.
He kind of looks like Dahmer.
It's not like he's got some major acting career now, but he's definitely, since the movie came out, like I said, a lot of filmmakers saw this and they fell in love with Mark Borchardt and Mike Schank as a duo. So you would see them on TV a lot as a pair. And I think, like they cover in this movie, he's just got such like an energetic spirit. He can convince anybody to help him out, help him make these movies, even for a short time. Like as we see his first production meeting for Northwestern, and it's maybe like 8 to 10 people, and the next one it's like 20 people. He's actually gaining some momentum, and the third one back down to like 6 people, and the final and fourth one is him and one other guy. So you see his kind of arc. Like he's really good at motivating people, but he's not good at following through.
Well, I don't know that I would agree with that. I would say that he is good at following through. Obviously, Northwestern never got made, apparently, but
if it took 3 or 4 years to make a 30-minute short,
I mean, that's follow through. To me, that's commitment. Like you have to be committed to follow through. I mean, I've certainly not finished a few films here and there, but it took me 5 years to make Apocalypse California. Even though I wasn't in love with it by the end of it, it was just like you gotta. I mean, it's like you got to be a little insane, I think, to jump into the industry and
to jump in and you're not already an independently wealthy person,
right?
If you got no money and no time, like
don't spend your own,
right? That's why he goes to Uncle Bill.
You go broke. Yeah.
Well, you're from Colorado. I'm from Illinois, just south of where this took place. Do you see any similarities to where you grew up?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, I think this looks like I was under the impression this was like Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Like it reminds me. It's okay. Number one, the one thing I was thinking of when we were watching this is like sadness. Of a bygone era, because it's like, and I think I've talked about this a few times on the other podcasts, like that now that we live in an age of the internet and a post 9/11 world, everything has to be very sharp and clean, concise, almost serious, where it has to have a real world purpose to it, or like real world value to it, or it's kind of looked down upon. Like look at like Kevin Smith and Kevin Smith's movies, and like how
He started with
iconic
Clerks,
they were.
which was a movie about a couple guys working at a convenience store.
Right, and they could have, honestly, it could have been made by Mark Borchardt in the same way, because it's kind of got the same energy and spirit about it. It's like, technically, it's not, there's nothing to it.
Right. They put a camera up, they filmed some people talking.
And look at where we are now. It's like those movies, like, I mean, that kind of stuff was revered at the time, and it still is in like small pockets of America and like beyond, but it's usually like rural areas where a small town, you know, you can't really escape where you're at. So you have to kind of
get creative to make the thing.
Live through the people that talk to you, and, you know, like the Kevin Smiths and the Mark Borchardts of the world. I feel like I'm saying his name wrong. Borchardt.
No, that's right.
Borchardt.
Mark Borchardt.
You know, they're inspirational to other people who grew up in those same things. Like, I grew up in a comic book store surrounded by nerds, playing card games and Dungeons and Dragons, and you know, it's like I may not be associated with that as much now, but I still feel like that's where my roots came from. That's probably where your roots came from.
You are of those people.
And it's not. It's kind of like, I feel like it's been expelled. You know, it's like the cool kids came in, took over the nerds.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
nerd stuff has become corporate.
Totally. And it's a little, I don't know. It's depressing in a way. Like, because now, you know, I think at the time when I first watched this, you kind of feel sad for them, because it's like, you wonder if they can see that what they're doing is not the greatest.
Like, it's.
But now I watch it and I'm like,
funny.
Actually, it seems like he's got a significant amount of talent. Like, he understands, but, you know, there's obviously limitations of the actors around you.
Yes.
The people you can convince to work for free, and, you know, he's working with
no resources.
Passionate people.
Yeah, with no money except what he can swindle out of people, essentially.
Basically, yeah.
That's one of the saddest parts. Uncle Bill becomes a very major character when he's like the only financial backer of this Coven thing, originally Northwestern.
Coven,
yeah.
Coven.
And you kind of see this guy is described as a one-time scholar. He was very smart. He was like the white sheep of the family. And now he lives alone in a trailer in his own filth, essentially, making up songs no one ever listens to, and it's super sad. Like, that's the life Mark doesn't want, because
that's what he's gonna become if he's not
right. That's what he's working against. That's why he's so motivated, because he doesn't want to be this, like,
he doesn't want to be stuck in that,
this lonely old man who never accomplished anything with his life.
And that's the shitty part about movie making, is that it does cost so much, and it really is impossible to do for free.
Yeah,
you can't just make a movie, and that's what's depressing about it, because it's like
everybody's got a smartphone. You can shoot video with that stuff now.
Now you can do it. Yeah. It's gonna look.
But it's gonna not meet audience expectations as far as quality is concerned, because as the technology has advanced, so has the audience become more savvy to everything.
I guess that's another thing I was thinking of when we were watching this, is like, of the time, watching it at the time, you don't appreciate things. Like, people don't appreciate things that look tacky or subpar at the time. They just think it's bad. It's we kind of had this talk when we watched The House on Haunted Hill, or you know, when I said at the time, like, you know, it's just kind of like another cookie cutter horror film. But give it some time, you come back, revisit it. Same with like John Carpenter films. You come back, revisit it, and there's that era of nostalgia is kind of baked into the movie, you know. And the same thing for this, you know, or the movie that he's trying to make, like Coven. You know, it looks cheesy and tacky, and at the time you're probably like, oh my god, this is not, you know.
I think as they showed a few clips in the movie, I was kind of like, you know,
but we looked at it, we're like, you know, it's actually
bad.
Pretty stylistic.
It starts off really well, but then as soon as somebody talks, Uncle Bill with the first line of the movie that has been 80 yard to hell, doesn't match up at all. It's awful. It is it just reveals the technical limitations. And the lighting is real harsh, and the film is super grainy, and you can't even see people's faces sometimes. And
yet
none
you
of that's
couldn't
deliberate.
recreate that today if you tried.
Right.
You know,
if you went out with a red camera
Yeah.
and got the DP to study one of these old shitty 16 millimeter reversal films, that would be super hard to replicate.
And the same thing can be said of The Room.
Oh,
Like, you try and go out and recreate that. Good luck.
What's that guy's name? The Room?
God. Now you see.
Well, whatever his name is. Mark Borchardt was like the original that guy.
Kind of, yeah.
Maybe American Movie inspired him to make The Room.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Doubt it, but maybe.
He was kind of doing his own thing. He didn't need inspiration.
I have so many questions about this movie. The fact that it's a documentary. Like, what I want to know is, did the documentarians find Mark Borchardt, or did he find them?
I wonder if he put out a flyer or something asking for help making the film, and these people are like, "We gotta get this guy in a documentary."
Well, that's what I wonder. Like, did they read about him in the newspaper or something?
It doesn't say in the trivia here, unfortunately.
It is kind of like, it's like Terry Gilliam's movie, the one that failed, but they got the documentary out of it. Like,
the
if
Quixote thing,
the Quixote, which just came out. I still need to see it.
Right.
But like, did Borchardt find them and just say, "Hey, man, I'm making a movie.
It's gonna be the greatest black and white American film ever made. You got to document this." I believe these filmmakers are already making documentaries at this time.
I want to see what else they've done.
Chris Smith, director.
Because you got to consider the fact that he did the Yes Man also. I mean, that was huge.
Oh, so, his first movie was American Job a few years before this, so he's got sort of a thing going on there. The Yes Man, yeah.
So he's definitely got. Oh, I need a Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. Is that the?
That's the one. Yeah, where they kind of
Jim Carrey just kind of
explore how he
took on
lived as Andy Kaufman.
That was a messed up. So okay, this guy's been around a while. So clearly, he must have been thinking, okay, I got to find the subject. So I would guess that at some point, Mark Borchardt came across the documentarian. I mean, because the whole documentary is shot on film over the course of 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they start in 94 and go up to 97.
That's expensive.
Yeah. Because they don't know what they're going to be filming that day. They don't know if it's going to be useful.
Yeah, like that's why I wondered if they somehow kind of had a deal. Like, was this all kind of a setup from the get-go? They must have known each other.
Yeah, I don't know how
they must have met at a film festival or something. Maybe one of them said, "I'm a documentarian." Like, "Oh yeah, man, we're making movies all the time," and he's like, "Well, let me document you," because maybe.
I mean,
Chris
you can
Smith,
tell
the director of this.
You can tell in 60 seconds what a nut Mark Borchardt is. So I think he's really.
I don't know
he
that
was
he
probably
is a nut.
very captivating as a subject.
He's eccentric, and he is driven. Like,
well, he drinks too much. That's for damn sure.
I mean, yes, he does. However, I would not say that he's super drunk from what I've seen. Like, I've seen much worse.
I don't think he's an alcoholic.
My friends, like,
but I mean, yelling at his parents and stuff, and getting in fights anytime he's got a beer in his hand.
Yeah,
not a good look for anybody. I think we can agree on that.
I don't know. The whole thing depresses me. Like, it makes me want to go out and just make the terrible movies in the 90s, like at the same era. Because without any fear of the films being rejected or
right,
getting out and just working like on pure instinct and not having to worry about consequence. That's the thing that I miss the most about that era.
Movies got too perfect, and now everybody has to live up to that perfect thing.
I know, and here I am, like,
doing your part.
It's my job to make them as perfect as possible.
You and me both.
I mean,
this is for as nutty as I think Mark Borchardt is, he really has some deep moments in this thing where after he's had this job at a cemetery for a while, they're in the middle of like taking down 1,500 American flags the day after Memorial Day.
I can't even imagine.
And he tells this little story. Like, here he is trying to make a feature film, starting with this short. And he got called into the bathroom to clean up somebody who had shit all over one of the stalls, on top of the toilet, on the walls, everywhere.
In a mortuary.
Yeah, in the mortuary. And he thought to himself, in about 10 seconds, I'm going to be cleaning up someone else's shit.
And he's like, it's a profound moment, man.
Yeah. That's where his life is at that time. He's got like 3 kids that he owes child support on, working at a cemetery, cleaning up shit. Can't finish this stupid short film. Nothing's looking up. I don't know how this guy powers through. I wonder if he's like bipolar. If he gets those high moments that just carries him through.
I wish this was the 7-Up series, where they do a documentary every 7 years to catch up on the same subject.
I've seen the first like 4 of those.
Because I would love to know what he's up to now. He's obviously still acting, but he doesn't look like he's...
I wonder if he's got a Twitter account.
It did say he was directing. I'm sure he's on Instagram. I'm sure he's YouTubing and Vimeoing and everything. The
he's
kids
around.
do these days.
Yeah.
So it's good to know he's still around. I wonder, is Mike still alive?
I think Mike is alive. Let's see. It has no birth date. I think
after
he's
as much
always
drug
been.
use as Mike talks about.
He was born on the same day as the planet Earth. He has always been here, and he always shall be. He was still acting in 2017 in a movie called China Test Girls. I'm not sure what that is about. Could be a porno? I don't know.
Danny Trejo's in it.
Okay.
Sasha
not
Grey.
A porno.
I mean, it could be a porno.
Wait, oh yeah, Sasha Grey. Well, everybody's active doing their own thing.
This is something, like, I really hope that people are able to see this movie, because if they haven't, they have to. I mean,
especially any aspiring filmmakers, or definitely. But even if
anybody who's driven to madness to create an art.
Yeah.
Like,
this really is an exploration of a driven artist.
Yeah.
And kind of what makes him tick. He had kind of a bad childhood, kind of grew up lower class, or maybe he grew up middle class, but the family kind of became lower income over time, because their house probably has not changed since 1980. They're wearing the same clothes and driving the same cars and have the same haircuts.
Would you say that he's successful? He did make it to the public eye with this movie. It wasn't doing.
I don't know if he wanted to just be famous. He wanted to make his movie. He wanted to see his vision come forth. And even when somebody misplaces 2 frames of the cut in the final mad dash to finish
right.
Coven, like he's
where the
got this
fuck
thing.
were those 2 frames?
People paid for this much film, not this much film, and he cuts off the 2 frames like in his imagination. And it's 2 frames, and it probably won't affect anything, but he's obsessive about it's got to be perfect. So he finished Coven. Nothing happened with Northwestern as far as we know. I wouldn't call that a success. He has a career.
Well, what's he says?
But I don't know that it was his goal.
What's he say? He says early on, he's like, no one is happy where they're at.
Yeah.
Like, they always want to be.
That's his girlfriend who said that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be somewhere else. They're never happy
right.
where they're at, which is so true.
Once you achieve a certain goal, you just want to go and do something else.
Yeah.
Maybe his goals have changed. I have not heard since 2001 from this guy.
I think I'm sure everything has changed, and I'm guessing he doesn't shoot on film anymore, but maybe he does.
Never know.
I would love to know if he owned all the equipment he was using at the time.
They seem to be using like different cameras and different parts, so I wonder if he just knew a person who would let him borrow it from time to time and didn't have to find somebody else.
That shit's expensive.
Yeah, different microphones, different sound recorders.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of use out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus.
So they probably, maybe he was just paying for the classes or something.
That could be. And had access to all their stuff.
Yeah.
Or he just made a friend. He seems like a super friendly guy.
Yeah.
And
seems like a nice guy. I mean, people would probably be totally down to help him out. I'm sure if he's done a Kickstarter or something, people would probably throw money at him. Like, I mean, I wonder if he has done that because I'm sure he'd be successful.
Yeah. But I look at his friendship with Mike Schank,
Yeah.
who tells this crazy story of overdosing on an acid tab that was dipped in PCP or something. Like his brain was dead for several hours, and he lived through it. But through all of
you can kind of tell his brain had died.
Oh yeah,
at some point because he talks so like man,
and his laugh. Yeah, you can tell his brain is pretty much mush at this point, but he plays the guitar pretty well.
Yeah,
I guess that stuck. But Mike Schank is clearly a guy who's been through a lot of shit, and that sort of stuff affects everyone in your life, including friends and family.
Yeah.
And despite that, Mark stayed his friend.
Yeah.
They're still best friends. And seems like Mike has kind of grown up. He's going through sobriety now. You know, he's got a sponsor. So he's changing, but Mark is kind of the same guy that he was in high school, still trying to make the same feature film.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit of Arrested Development. You know, they both live with their parents, and they're 30 years old. They're trying to fulfill these boyhood fantasies.
Yeah. One has kids. I mean, Mark's got kids.
Yeah.
You know, he's got an ex who he wouldn't marry.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically pieced out. And, yeah, it's a good slice of
for sure
a very specific time and
place.
And place.
I mean, there's a lot of parts of
There's
Illinois that
still
have
rural
the same
areas.
kind of like trailer parks and rundown homes.
Yeah, but it's different now. Like it feels like if you were to find those areas now, everything is so. I want to say like just everything
bullshit.
Everything feels like armed to the teeth now.
Armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I just mean like I feel like if you were to go to those areas now, it wouldn't be run down. I mean, it would still be run down, but it'd be run down in a very different kind of way. It would be people who had access to the internet,
mm-hmm.
access to probably, a political slant, probably not the blue side.
Green Party. That's what you're saying.
I'm just saying, I think people would be so distracted by what's going on politically that they would have different aspirations.
I see.
Than they would. Like they would
in that world. There's no room for art.
There's no room to go out and like waste time making movies like this or collect the people that they need to make the movies like that. I mean, I say that, but every town, regardless of where you're at, there's always an art center.
Yeah.
There's always kids who want to go do something that's not, a good and more hardworking American job.
In Crystal Lake, Illinois, where I grew up, apparently going for an art degree of any kind. I went to film school in Chicago. Was such a big new idea. I got interviewed by my local paper.
Yeah.
Just for going to film school. I was one of 2,000 kids doing the same thing, all in the tri-state area, but somehow people still thought it was like notable enough in Crystal Lake. Like, he's going to make movies.
Did you reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm going
I have a friend who worked for the paper at the time."
Okay. Wait, I mean, does your grandma?
My grandmother is dead.
Oh, well, when she was alive,
thanks for bringing that
did
up.
she look at the newspaper and cut out all the articles on filmmakers and send them to you? That's what my grandma does still to this day.
My mom used to do that. Any kind of like film article she saw in the in the Northwest Herald.
My grandmother, since she lives in Fresno, cut out an article on these wonderful Fresno filmmakers, Brian Harley, who's a friend of ours.
That fucking guy. More successful than either of us, I bet.
Well, yeah, because he went back to Fresno because he knew he could run Fresno. And he does now. He basically dominates the entire film industry there, and which is hilarious. And I'm like, it kind of makes me want to like stick my fist up in the air like 80s style and like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, man. Because now he runs Well, now he runs the Swede Fest,
Mm-hmm.
as they call it. Which, if you don't know what a Swede is, it's basically
It's like
people remaking something kind of shot for shot, but making it on a cheap cardboard cutout kind of level.
Action figure special effects, that kind of thing, like the movie Be Kind, Rewind.
Right.
And I think the word Swede comes from, they used to make these horrible Swedish remakes of like popular films. Like, wasn't there a Spider-Man movie where it was clearly like they were just filming upside down to put them on the ceiling and things like that?
Right.
Yeah, those are always fun.
I just
they
saw
just
that
made one
they
for
just,
Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah, and Brie Larson saw it and
Liked
posted
it, shared
it's the
it.
most amazing thing she's ever seen and posted it on Twitter.
Well, they had it done in like
they have
12 hours. How did they
have
do that?
Millions and millions of hits.
Yeah.
I mean, last time I went and visited them with Orla, we stopped in the backyard and they were filming the mock-up of the Swede of the Last Jedi trailer. And we just showed up and somebody's got a cardboard Chewbacca hat on. It's basically just like strands.
Yeah, they just like
brown,
drew. Yeah.
brown. Yeah. Look it up.
Oh, speaking of The Last Jedi, if they made a movie out of this story, Adam Driver could play Mark Borchardt.
100%. 100%.
And that would be awesome. I would love for Adam Driver to play Mark Borchardt.
Maybe that's what we should make next.
American Movie, the movie.
I have almost too many things to say about this movie, but
I only got one more thing to throw out there, really. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Like, I'm laughing at the stuff.
You're laughing at the pain of these people, too.
Yeah, their pain, but also, like, Mike Schank, and they have the little sequence of everybody screaming into the microphone, and Mike Schank has the most blood-curdling, frightening scream. He's red in the face, and Mark just turns around, he's like, that was wicked, man. It's totally wicked. They're just giddy. They're having fun making this thing, even if it turns out to be not a great movie. Anyway, it's easy to laugh at all these people and their situation and like the way the mom doesn't get how the camera runs and things like that. But like, they're just people. They're not actually like Napoleon Dynamite characters. This is just how they live their lives, and they don't know how fucking movies work.
Yeah.
And we can laugh because we do, and we're like hip to the whole fucking scene.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. It's important to remember that they're not here for our
enjoyment.
They're not some dancing monkeys. They're just people.
The closest thing I've ever been involved with, like on a filmmaking level, to what they're doing was a Star Wars fan film in like
Prelude to Hope.
2002. No. Because Prelude I wasn't a part of. Those are just our friends, Devin Reed and Ryan Jordan and Chris Newsom. But no, this was I saw an ad somewhere. I think it was on the Force.net forums, and it was like fan activities, like in Colorado in particular. And it was like some guy posted. He's like, I'd love to be a part of like a Star Wars fan film. Who do we know who would be interested?
Yeah.
And so I replied. I was like, okay, sure, yeah, let's meet up somewhere. And like, we all drove to this school in Denver, like Metro Denver, and it was like sat around a round table, kind of like they did in this movie, and it was like 8 or 9 of us, just kind of like random people. Just loved, some of them loved Star Wars, some of them just wanted to hold lightsabers, and like, like I was the only one there that wanted to direct, but there was another guy who wanted to write it.
No one wanted to direct. Are you kidding me? That's like the job.
That's
maybe nobody wanted the responsibility.
I don't think people do want the responsibility. Like, I think when they're a little afraid. But anyway, some of the other guys wrote it, and at the time I was making Drugs, which was my college film, and I didn't have time to write it. So I was like, you guys write it. So they did, and like, we went out, we filmed it. I mean, we filmed a lot. We filmed like...
Where's this footage now? And can we finish
it? It's on mini DV tapes in San Diego.
I've got a mini DV camcorder if we
because
want
the guy who
capture.
the guy who wrote it, his name is Christopher. I forget his last name, but he moved to Seattle and then he moved down to San Diego recently. I talked to him like 2 years ago, and he was talking about sending it to me. I mean, the footage probably looks like garbage. Like the acting was terrible.
Of course,
because it was just people around and but we shot everywhere. We built like a huge. We had access to a warehouse. We built a chicken wire cave, like a massive
like
chicken
with
wire
paper mache
cave.
and
like
stuff.
a 2-story chicken wire.
Two
cave.
stories.
Yes. It was inside of a basketball court size thing, and we filled the entire basketball court with a chicken wire netting basically, and then we just paper machéed the entire thing, and then we painted it brown on the inside, and we just walked in, and it looked like a cave.
That works.
Shit like that you can't film that on like 8K.
No,
because you would see all
You'll
the detail.
see
You would look fake.
The edge of
You'd
the
see
chicken wire through the paper.
But on shitty video, it looks great.
Yeah, you could get away with so much more on VHS and God.
I just miss that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm never gonna finish that.
Darn.
But
we can write a new Star Wars fan film. I've got a script for one that I should work on.
I mean, you sent me one ages ago.
It's the same one.
Same. so the 15-year-old script.
Yeah. I just need to make it good. That's the hard part.
If we have any audience members that have made terrible movies, I want to see them.
Yeah.
So
Chad has seen mine. I'm not sharing it with the world.
Find me
there's
at Chad Peter on Instagram or Twitter, or chadpeter@hotmail.com.
Yeah.
I want to send me this shit.
He will watch it. He will enjoy it. He will give you all the positive feedback you
probably
could
not
hope for.
But yes. All right, that's pretty much all I gotta say.
Great. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I guess I'm done too.
Go watch this movie.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Slice of life.
It's great. Yeah.
It's Dragon Wagon.
Gamebox Monthly sends a new awesome indie tabletop game right to your door every month. There are multiple subscriptions to choose from, and you can personalize them to fit your style. Also, you're guaranteed to never get a title you already have, letting you focus on what matters most, having a great time with great people.
So visit GameboxMonthly.com and use the promo code DRAGON to get an exclusive discount just for the Hell With This listeners.
Once again, that's GameboxMonthly.com.
Rediscover social.